One of the first ever cards to have Fallen of Albaz in their text is finally playable and branded, and of course I'm talking about Nadir Servant. Nadir Servant was released in Rise of the Duelist, which also introduced us to the Albaz lore, or the Abyss lore. It introduced Dogmaticas, Fallen of Albaz itself, Nadir Servant, Titaniclad, Dogmatica Punishment, all of those were first introduced in Rise of the Duelist. But up until now, Nadir Servant hasn't been really seeing any play in Branded because of a very strong restriction it has, that when you activate it, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So how come it's actually finally playable in Branded? Well, I'm gonna show you how this card is actually a good replacement for Crossout Designator and helps you recover after losing, quote unquote, to Ash Blossom. If you want 5% off any single or sealed product, head over to tier0games.com and use code GALZO5 at checkout. So the thing with Nadir Servant and Branded today is mostly about recovery from things like Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is obviously a huge hindrance to Branded. It stops Branded Fusion entirely. There's no way around it except for, like, playing Predaplant combos, which in my opinion are a little bit bricky and cluttered, but overall, you need your Branded Fusion to resolve, and if you're going first, you need Crossout or Called By if your opponent has Ash Blossom. But Called By is at 1, that's fair, it's a very good card, but Crossout tends to be a little bit bricky. It makes you play those targets as well in your deck. Maybe you don't necessarily want to or need to. So for this line of play, we are going first and we need a discard Nadir Servant, and we also need Branded Fusion that essentially gets negated. So of course, this is our turn. Branded Fusion gets ashed. What do we do from here, and how can Nadir Servant help us? Okay, so Nadir Servant, if you don't know what it says send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then add one Dogmatica monster or Fallen of Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand that has attack less or equal to that sent monster in the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So this is for the rest of the turn. It has a restriction where you cannot summon for the extra deck, but it's not going to matter because this is how we actually recover. Sending from the extra deck is super strong, especially in Branded, and we're going to be utilizing exactly that. Also, fun fact, this is one of the first cards of the Albaz lore ever to be released alongside Albaz, Titaniclad, and Dogmatica Encounter. But this card art depicts Fallen of Albaz falling from the sky in the Dogmatica Nation for the first time, with Ecclesia and Fleur-de-Lis looking up at it. So we got ashed and we need to recover. We are going to play and we're going to activate Nadir Servant. We're going to be sending Sprint the Iron Dash Dragon from our extra deck to the graveyard, and we are going to be adding Fallen of Albaz from our deck to our hand. Now, once we have the Fallen of Albaz, we can continue either playing if we have other cards in our hand, but I want to show you the recovery that happens during the end phase. So during the end phase, we are going to activate the effect of Sprint to special summon or search a Springans monster. And that will summon Springans Kit from the deck. We can activate Kit's effect and search for a branded spell or trap from the deck or the graveyard, and we're going to be searching for Branded in High Spirits. Of course, we're going to need to put a card from our hand to the bottom of the deck after resolving, and we're going to be adding Branded in High Spirits. What does Branded in High Spirits says? It's a quick play spell card that says reveal one monster in your hand and send one level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with the same type that has 2500 attack or defense. Then you can apply the following effect. Discard the reveal monster, and if you do, add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Also has another end phase effect where you can recover it back to your hand. So essentially, we now, during the end phase, need to activate Branded in High Spirits. Now we've activated Branded in High Spirits, we are discarding the Fallen of Albaz that we've added off of Nadir Servant and also sending to the graveyard Albion the Branded Dragon, because it's a fusion monster, level 8, 2500 attack, that is also a dragon, like the card we discarded. And then we can add to our hand a card that mentions Fallen of Albaz, and that is going to be Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Then this will resolve, and Albion, since it's the end phase, can activate its effect, placing Branded in red in our spell and trap zone face down. So essentially, during our opponent's turn, if we have another discard, for example, in our hand, we can then activate Branded in red, targeting the Fallen of Albaz. We can go ahead and use it and Kit, banishing them, summoning the Lubellion. Then we can activate the Lubellion effect, discarding a card, shuffling back the Lubellion or any other fusion monster that's in your graveyard, and of course the Albaz to the deck. Then we can get a Mirror Jade. So essentially what happened here is that we went from our branded fusion being negated to a graveyard full of great resources and Mirror Jade plus an additional monster negate. And this is how you recover using Nadir Servant if you got ashed. Wait, only 32% of you are subscribed? Come on guys, leave a thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying this and subscribe to support the channel. But what happens if your branded fusion doesn't get negated? Well, it still has a lot of value as a card you can activate at the end of your turn. So if we do activate the branded fusion and it does get resolved, what we can do is, for example, send Albaz and Despian Tragedy to the graveyard, summon Lubellion, and then activate Lubellion and Tragedy, discarding the Dark Magician in our hand, for example. We're going to be searching for a copy of Aluber with Tragedy. Then, of course, we can shuffle back the Albaz and the Lubellion to summon a Mirror Jade. Then, basically, we're at the same spot almost. Then we can go ahead and summon the Aluber. We can activate the effect. And now we can use our Aluber to actually search the branded in High Spirit so we can get the value off of Nadir Servant. We're going to be activating the Nadir Servant. We're going to be sending to the graveyard, this time, Albion, the branded dragon. And then, for example, we can use branded in High Spirit, sending Fallen of Albaz and something like Alba Lenatus if we want to. We can grab ourselves a copy of Mercurier for an additional negate. Then during the end phase, we can add from our deck, we can set, of course, the brand in red, and we still have the Mirror Jade live, but we can also search for some follow-up for the next turn, where we can add something like branded fusion to our hand or additional follow-up. So I think that in general, the idea behind Nadir Servant being recovery for the deck is pretty good. I think that if you don't want to play crossout or you don't want to, block your deck with a lot of targets that you don't really need, I think it might be useful for the side deck, especially for going first game 2 or 3, or going second against things like Dimensional Barrier. But I think that the utility that Nadir offers is pretty interesting, and I did want to show you how you can use those cards for your advantage. Of course, I really want to know in the comments below what you guys think about Nadir Servant in this build or this recovery method in general. I think that Nadir Servant is going to be much more relevant during Cyberstorm Access, but I did want to bring this to you guys' attention. So I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, we are at 7,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I want to thank you guys personally from the bottom of my heart. I hope we get to 10K soon so we can celebrate, and keep an eye out for the next live stream because we might have an interesting 7K giveaway to you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.